Hello and welcome to Raising Those Spirits. I'm Steve,
And I'm Sam.
and welcome to the second half, the spoiler half of our Hocus Pocus 2 episode.
Yep, originally this was going to be one episode, but it got way too long, so we had to cut it in half.
And we
So we're
figured,
spreading it out for you.
yeah, why not? We had a lot to say, and since it's new, we didn't want to spoil it for everyone, so this was the logical
So
conclusion.
if you haven't seen Hocus Pocus 2, now's your chance.
If you
Stop
haven't,
this podcast, go watch it, and then come back and hear all of our brilliant thoughts.
and if you haven't listened to episode 1 yet, stop this, go listen to that, and come back because we reference the first part in the second part.
And listen to all of our other episodes too, if you haven't done that. You could be one of the dozens.
Okay, your time is up. I'm going to start counting, and then we're into spoilers. And we are into spoilers in 5, 4, 3, 2. You've been warned. All right.
Can't believe they all die.
Honestly,
I can't believe that. No,
that's
that was pretty.
that's a question I had, not about the witches. Well, I mean, are we gonna do plot? Are we gonna do plot? Or are we gonna get straight into
Yeah, let's
theories?
lightly do, no, let's lightly do the plot. Let's do some
Okay.
light plot.
All right. So we start
That gets
off
into my theories.
back in the 1600s when the Sanders sisters are kids. And Winifred is only 15 as the oldest at this point, and they're trying to marry her off, and she won't do it. And they get banished from the town. And then they meet a good witch, a bad witch. They meet a witch in the woods who basically like gives
She's
them
not a
their
good
spell back.
witch.
Well, she's a yeah.
We meet the witch that introduces them to witchcraft. We see them when they escape the town because Tony Hale plays the preacher. He'll also then play the mayor as the descendant of the preacher. Runs them out of town. They run into the forest for safety, where they meet a. It starts out as a crow. I don't know the actual name of this bird. It looks like a crow, but it has these red crests on their wings. You see them all around this part of New England. I don't know the name of the
I
bird.
think they're Orioles.
I don't think it was an oriole because it was still like kind of
Oh,
like a
it's still
crow.
big. I don't think that was a real bird. I don't think.
Oh, that's a real bird. That's a
Is
real
it?
type of bird. Yeah, yeah. Every time I see one around here, I'm like, oh shit, look at that bird.
I
They
have
got those
never
big, pretty
seen
red things.
never seen that bird before.
Oh, okay. Well, they live by me.
Okay,
Makes
must be
sense.
too far south.
I'm not that far from Salem. The bird turns out to be a witch. She transforms into a witch, and this is I don't know the name of this actress. She's very pretty.
She's from Ted Lasso. I believe she's the love interest in Ted Lasso.
Oh, okay. So she gives them basically what she gives them the book, the spell book. Tells them, "Hey, this is how you can use this spell book, become witches, be able to safe with each other. Don't do the Deus Ex Machina spell at the back of the book. You do that, you're gonna have a bad time. Adios." Then she kind of just again flies off. Next thing we see the Sanderson sisters are budding witches, and they take revenge on the town, and that's kind of that will lead to their life of witchcraft that eventually gets them hanged. Yeah, I thought it was a good opening sequence. I think they did a good job in the old timey town.
Yeah, the opening was one of the best parts of the movie.
Yeah,
My only
they're the
problem is
strongest.
Disney keeps trying to make their villain take all their villains and make them into like weird anti-heroes.
Hmm.
Like, all right, the Pilgrims were awful, but trying to humanize the Sanderson sisters is a weird twist. Like, oh no, they're not bad. They were forced to do this by the puritanical Pilgrims. It's like the
They still ate children.
they're
That's
still
a
very
major
bad.
part of their
It,
character. They
it's like
still eat kids.
it's like Maleficent and Cruella and everything else. I'm like some. There, at the end of the day, Cruella still tried to kill 101 Dalmatians and skin them to wear a
She's
jacket.
like
You
on her
can try and
dogs.
humanize her all you want. Like,
Still animal cruelty.
Yeah, and I'm like, Disney,
Yeah.
why do you keep taking all these villains and trying to make them like sympathetic?
No, and I
Um,
think that gets to what you were saying before. They seem more annoying in this movie and less evil. That's because I full on theory, my theory is that by the time we get to the end of Hocus Pocus 3, they're just going to be heroes. They're going to be good characters. They'll have a redemption. They'll have a complete redemption arc by the end of the next movie.
I think that is true. Spoiler alert, they left
Spoiler alert,
a
they're definitely
there's definitely a part 3
bring
in the
another movie.
works. It's in the closing credits sequence, which I have the note post credit scene unnecessary.
I mean, it's necessary if you're setting up a part 3.
I
That's
don't
exactly
want
what it
it.
was. It's like
I just don't want it.
means because they get killed, and then the last thing we see at the end of the post-credit sequence is like, oh, there's another black candle. So apparently they could just keep getting resurrected as long as you have these candles.
Yeah, I thought it was like a
Or the spell
final.
has not been broken.
Yeah, the spell was actually broken in this movie. And like Billy finally gets to move on. Like everything that they've ever done fades away. It's actually over. Apparently, no. Like it just
Oh, not even a little.
not
By the end
even.
of no, they were prepared if this movie does well, which it is already doing very well. They had a an out so that they can bring back the sisters for the next movie, and I imagine by the end of the next movie, we'll discover that the witch mother was and that was the person from Ted Lasso. I just looked up the character's name. It was witch mother. I think we'll find out they're the real villain.
Yeah, and
Sanderson sisters were just misled, and they'll end up being good guys.
so in the first movie, they definitely mention Mother.
Mm.
And in this
Yeah,
movie, you see her, she gives them the book, she blips away, and she's never seen or spoken of again.
in her human form. We see her again at the tail end of the movie because she's following the teenagers
Is she?
in her bird form,
Ah, I
or it's
must.
another witch. She's definitely following them at the end of the movie.
Okay. I missed that, but I had kind of, like, not fully tuned out. But, you know,
Hmm. Oh, I got you. You did. You missed it. It was not a
a big detail.
forgiven for missing it.
Yeah.
But no, she's definitely following them at the end of the movie. We see our three because at the end of the movie, our three teenagers. I don't remember all the characters' names. Our three teenagers have become witches, or they're becoming witches, and they're definitely taking on the character traits of the Sanderson sisters, their funny walk and their thing like that. So I think my guess is the plot of the third movie will be them coming into their power, them eerily getting corrupted by the witch mother, and then for whatever reason they need to resurrect the Sanderson sisters one more time to help them in that fight. That'll either be third movie, or if they're stretching this into like a new trilogy, maybe that'll be like the third movie of these new, like, Hocus Pocus technically four, but the new trilogy, the third movie of this new trilogy
Bette
somewhere.
Midler is 78? Like, you.
Yeah, but she's great. She's looking good.
She's looking good, but that doesn't mean anything.
You know what they could do is they could resurrect them as younger versions of
Oh,
themselves.
yeah. I was just thinking that.
We have
Um,
those three actresses from this movie, those three young actresses who played them when they're younger. A couple of years from now,
yeah, they will be all teenagers to late teenagers.
I
Uh,
think it's an easy way to recast the Sanderson sisters younger if they want to do that. Or you know what, as long as Bette Midler stays in good health, um, she could totally do it again. It would probably have them do less, but you could totally bring them back.
all right,
And Doug
let's.
Jones too. Why not? They all
Doug
nobody
Jones
dies.
was so
Everybody
good
comes
in
back.
this.
Doug Jones is great. I
Yeah.
love that actor.
All right, let's
Billy Richardson.
rewind. We're way
Fine.
off. I'm bringing us
Jump
back.
from the beginning all the way to the end. Get us back to the middle.
All right, so they get the book. They go. They burn down the priest's house, and then we're in modern times. And again, this opening is not discouraging my kid from believing that witches are good. Because,
So they're definitely the positive characters in that opening scene, even when they burn the Reverend's house down.
yeah, exactly. Like, that was the only part of the movie my kid was into. And I was like, oh no. Like, so we get to modern times. We meet our two main characters, who I know the sidekick's name is Izzy. The main girl's name.
Okay.
Hold on. IMDb.
Becca.
Oh, Becca. Okay, so we meet Becca and Izzy. I think Izzy is a lot of fun. She's kind of the normal person in the thing. Like, what is it when you have like the audience character or whatever? I forget the
POV.
Yeah,
Plays
like
POV character.
yeah. So like she's saying what any rational person in these situation would be thinking most of the times. Like she is not in a movie. She is going excuse me, a lot. I liked her. I thought Izzy was a delight. So we have Becca and Izzy running into their friend Cassie. And honestly, I did not realize that she was just part of their trio and they had like friend broken up. I really got the vibes that it was like Becca's ex-girlfriend.
Yeah.
And until we found out it wasn't. But like my wife and I were both like, oh, okay, it's her ex-girlfriend and they've recently broken up and things are awkward. But no, she's just started dating Mike. And Mike is our resident himbo. And I have a note here that's just like, am I supposed to like this himbo? Because I do. I don't know if that was your intent, but Mike is a delight.
I think it makes more sense by the end of the movie when you realize that like this what broke them up was really just more of a misunderstanding than anything else.
Yeah,
But
it was
it's
just about
also
lack of communication. A lot of this is just teenagers don't know how to communicate properly.
yeah, I think that goes to some of the weak plotting we were talking about because they had been all friends for many years. It sounds like they had kind of stopped being friends for the last 4 months. I think they put an actual date on it of 4 months.
Yes, they did.
Like even when they're interacting with Cassie's dad, the mayor, he doesn't realize that they're not hanging out anymore. And yeah, 4 months that could just happen. Well, that maybe more when you're in your 30s, less so when you're a teenager. You might not hang out or even talk to one of your closest friends for 4 months. That could just happen.
It's weird when they
Um,
sit at the next lab table though. It's not like it like it's easy when you don't have any classes. It's hard when you literally like sit next to them in class.
yeah, they were one frank conversation away from clearing up any confusion between them and just going back to being best friends.
And again, the opportunity was there. They sit next to each other in class.
Yeah, I think that was again just I think it was some weak plotting to add a little drama to give the characters a little more to do so that we had to get them back together so that they could be like three friends and our trio at the end of the movie. Um, but it was weak.
It was pretty weak. There was a lot of things that were just there for you to not think about. They were just there to move the plot along.
Here's where I think this movie's biggest problem is there's not a solid antagonist. I know that the Sanderson sisters are the bad guys, but like you said, they're more annoying, and for most of the movie, they're kind of doing their own thing.
They don't even
There's
stick to their own plans. Like they bewitch the town again, which I have problems with, and we'll get to that. To
it
find
was a
the mayor, and then they just break off and kind of forget about that. So when the townspeople finally find the mayor, like the witches aren't there, and the townspeople didn't have a further command, so the spell just ends. It's like this weird anticlimactic like joke.
yeah. So I thought here's what I thought was going to happen in this movie. I thought that we were going to meet Tony Hale, the mayor. He's a descendant of the Reverend who originally cast them out of the town. I thought Tony Hale was going to end up being our bad guy because
He
Tony
was
Hale
just too
plays bad guys.
nice.
Yeah, he was nice, and Tony Hale plays bad guys in a lot of movies, especially kids' movies. He comes in and he plays the like And that same sort of like, I'm very intelligent and I'm kind of evil and I'm going to outsmart you sort of villain. And I thought it was going to be like he was going to find out that the witches were back and he's like, I have to finish what my ancestors started or something like that. And that doesn't happen. Tony Hale's character is just the nicest.
He's the mayor for a reason.
And that's like, that's his whole character. He's a nice person. He's good with the kids. I don't think he ever finds out the Sanderson sisters are actually witches, but like when he happens upon them in his home, he's like, "What can I do to help you?"
He's
Like he's
just
always nice.
he's the comic relief. He's just this guy who does not understand he's in the middle of a supernatural event and is just rationalizing his way through every step of the night, thinking he's just having like a terrible day.
Yeah. So, and since the Sanderson sisters, for the most part, are off doing their own things, never, like, again, not seemingly even following through on their evil plans very well, they don't feel like as big of a threat as they did in the first movie. So we have to, yeah, that's why we have a reason that we have to, like, work to get the three characters all together, because there needs to be some drama. Whereas I feel like a more central villain, like I thought, oh, when it turned out Tony Hale actually wasn't, I was just like, oh, the Witch Mother is going to be our real villain. Oh, she isn't. Oh, okay. The Sanderson sisters are our actual villain. They're just not particularly effective. They're certainly no more. They're less effective as villains as they were in the first movie.
It again,
So
I this has like a weird Halloween Town issue almost with the flow and the pacing and the plot where it almost feels like this was supposed to be like a multi-part miniseries or something. And a lot of this is just like filler, but it was just the whole movie was just like weird filler. There's
sure. Oh
no
yeah, because that would
driving
make sense.
force. Like there's
'Cause-
no
okay,
bad guy. There's no MacGuffin really. There's just like, oh, antics. It's Halloween antics.
I think we can assume. I think you're right. I think that this is conceived as beginning of, like I was saying before, I think we're going to see at least one more, if not two more movies.
This is
Don't want to
a
rely.
I told you this story so I could tell you the other stories story.
You're catching the new audience up to speed with who these characters are. So we're doing basically a retread of the first movie. We're adding in just a little bit of detail so that we can produce a greater threat later on. So in part two, there, yeah, because you don't want to. The first movie can't be your foundation anymore. It was 30 years ago. All those teenagers are now old people, and we need the teenagers to be our main characters. So we do a light retread, kind of like exactly what happened with Force Awakens, where it's like, okay, we're restarting this thing. We kind of gotta get ourselves back to base. We're gonna do a quick retread of the original movie, and then we're gonna go from there. That's what this was. Just why it just feels like a watered down version of the original movie. Again, I still liked this, but I think this is the problem that it ran into. Then we'll get a second movie where we're introduced, maybe the witch mother comes in and she'll start corrupting them, and by the end of that movie they'll realize she's a real threat. And then the third movie of this new trilogy will be the fight against the witch mother with the Sanderson sisters coming back, so you can have the whole thing full circle or something like that. Or maybe the next movie will have a completely different threat, like maybe they'll have to go fight werewolves or something, and then the third movie will get back to the main plot. But I think that's what we're seeing. We're seeing a quick refresh and then the new actual series.
I would love to have a spin-off that just follows this new coven dealing with spooky stuff as opposed to bringing back the old stuff. This is almost like handing the baton to a new generation. I don't expect it to happen, but that's the direction I would like it to go.
Sure.
Um, but yeah. So all right, let's rewind again. We
Mm.
we have so many feelings about this. It's hard to stay on track.
It is.
So they end up at the magic shop. God, we're only like 12 minutes into the movie at this point.
We're still very early in the film.
So the magic shop, or their old, so the Sanderson sisters' house, which in the first movie was a museum, is now like the town magic shop slash museum. It's basically become a just trap for the Sanderson sisters. And the magic shop in the first one was in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of the town has now spread out a little further, which is something that you see a ton of in this area. That makes perfect sense. That
That
exact sort of thing is happening all the time in this area.
I agree, but it did not seem like it was even remotely still in that part of town. Like the roads that had been there had clearly been there for a long time. The other structures, like none of that was new 30-year builds. It was just like a weird continuity thing that pissed me off.
It's
Um,
fair.
but the magic shop has come a long way in the last 30 years. A lot of my early thoughts eventually get explained by plot later, which I liked
Mhm.
because a lot of my gripes ended up kind of getting like erased. Because I was like, oh, it's good to see that, the girl from the first one's mom didn't run this place into the ground. It's come a long way. It's really nice now.
It felt very true to Salem. I was just like, this exact shop exists in Salem.
Oh, yeah.
I've been to it. You could pick up the ghost tour in the back. Um, and if you want, like, if this movie is pretty accurate to what Salem actually feels like. I'll give that. I'll definitely say that to this movie. Um, it would be more crowded that time of year, much more crowded, but like it's got the right vibe. It's all
It,
tourist traps. We talked about this in the Hocus Pocus episode. Like it's all tourist
yeah.
traps.
Everyone's cashing in, especially on Halloween. So they go into the magic shop, and we meet the new owner of the magic shop, who is their friend Gilbert. And he's giving a whole, hey, I'm gonna give a new audience run up to speed on what happened in the first movie, and anyone who hasn't watched it in a while, here's the first movie. Um, and Book is there, and I'm like, why didn't they destroy Book at the end of the first movie? They
I
just
think it makes sense if this guy took over. He's clearly got some reverence. I mean, like Sam Richardson has some reverence for for the Sanderson sisters. He wouldn't destroy the book.
Yeah, I know, but how
He
did
wouldn't
he
have done it.
even have time to get it? I'm just saying, like, the kids at the end of the first one should have immediately just wandered over and destroyed the book. And
It's a loose end.
we'll
That's a
get
good
to
point.
that
Maybe
later.
maybe it be destroyed. Like because it's like the Necronomicon. I don't think you can destroy the Necronomicon.
Ash destroys the Necronomicon in one of
Oh, he
them.
burns it in part two. Or he burned it
Yeah,
in part
and he
one.
stabs it, too, with, like, something, and it bleeds. You can totally kill it.
Came back for the TV show.
Yeah, well, you gotta make those bills. Um,
Yeah.
So, uh, the one thing I really liked, there was this great like joke when he's telling the story about the first one and how a virgin has to light the black flame candle, and a little boy in the audience asks what a virgin is,
That was a great moment.
and the boy's mother is just sitting next to him, staring at Sam Richardson, like, how are you going to handle this? What are you going to say to my young child who has asked you a question that it is not your responsibility to answer? And just the eyes between him and the mother for like a good 10 seconds are hilarious. And the mother is actually the woman who wrote this movie.
Oh, all right. Good for her.
Yeah, that was like a little cameo for her, but that is a great little gimmick as he stumbles his way through that as she's slowly nodding at him.
Is it a
So
little weird that Sam Richardson is clearly like actually friends with these teenage girls?
it is absolutely weird that he's friends with a bunch of 15-year-old girls. Yes.
He should not do that, Sam Richardson. He is almost 40.
And like he does, like you do get that they are in there every day, and they are his best customers. Because Becca is like practicing Wiccan, so she hangs out at the store a lot, buys a lot of stuff, blah blah blah. But still, you shouldn't be friends with these girls just because they like are your best customers. But anyway, he made her. Her birthday is Halloween, and they always do like a spooky ritual for the last 10 years, and they light a candle in the woods, and he made her a special candle, and he charged it with good juju for her to light on her 16th birthday, because 16th birthdays are when witches are supposed to get their powers. And Smokey the Bear here, kids. The girls immediately go into the woods, put the candle in a pile of leaves, and light it. Don't do that.
Dry leaves.
They,
That was the first note I took. I was just like, fire, fire.
yeah,
That's safe.
yeah. It's just don't light candles in the woods on a pile of dried leaves.
So so dangerous. I was like, that's insane. Why are you doing
This is
this?
just you didn't even try and clear them, even a little bit. It was so bad.
Have
And
a fire extinguisher with you, for God's sake.
anything, all they have is a tiny bottle of water. And that we know that because it turns out Sam Richardson betrayed them. He gave them a black flame candle during a full moon on Halloween for a virgin to light, and they summon back the Sanderson sisters. Um,
Oops.
and they try and put out the candle, but they only have this tiny, tiny bottle of water, and it does not work. So they were not stopping a forest fire.
Bad call.
And the Sanderson sisters appear with a musical number, and they did not appear with a musical number in the first one.
Yeah, that didn't really
It,
make a lot
it,
of sense.
it
I
was
do
like a
like that they
weird
made a joke
vibe.
about it.
They did, but it was just like weird energy. I was like, this doesn't match up with the
It
energy
was
from
weird
the
because
first one.
they were like having a little music video.
Yes,
Clearly, the other characters are like, "What the hell? Like, what are they doing?" Like, whatever they cut away, the other characters were not in the music video. Again, it was a weirdly disjointed. I
yes,
like that they call it out. It's like, who are they singing for? You.
yes. Yeah,
I thought that was clever.
that is a fun joke, and I did like that Mary Sanderson actually got to do something a little bit in this movie. Besides just sniff out children, she had this ability to just constantly appear behind you, which is something that I didn't realize in the last movie. Apparently, only Winifred really has magic. The other two are just kind of like her coven. Like Sarah Jessica Parker
Supporting magic.
can like sing and lure children, and Mary Sanderson can sniff them out and like kind of like appear behind you creepily, but they don't have any actual magic, which I thought was a weird decision that wasn't implied in the first movie at all.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Bette Midler, Winifred is the most powerful. She is the lead, and they do have some magic, but they don't have her level of magic.
but they do call
They can all
themselves
fly.
the
They
most
can make
powerful
potions.
coven, and I'm like, I don't know, two of you can do some parlor chicks, like.
They're more powerful when all three of them together. That's where they're at the height of their power.
I
But it's
guess.
still very much focused through Winifred because she's the oldest and she's the most adept.
So then the girls end up doing the plan that I thought they were going to do in the last movie when the Sanderson sisters come back, and they do the plan where they're like, no, we brought you back because we are a coven of wishes and we think you're awesome. And again, that's the plot thread that we talked about in the last episode that I thought they were going to do and then didn't. And we do that, and they successfully trick the witches into thinking that the beauty products at Walgreens are just modern children's soul serums, and you can just buy them in a store.
A lot of Walgreens. Like, a lot of Walgreens in this movie. Walgreens put some good money down for this movie.
I was shocked, honestly. I was just like, wow, Walgreens won a big bid here.
They're like, we want Walgreens all over this film. And there's a good 10 minutes of the film set in a Walgreens. It's not as bad as Man of Steel's IHOP and Sears shenanigans. It's not as bad as that. But I was like, this is pretty blatant.
It was very blatant. And yeah, it could have been a much quicker scene. I just I had something to say and I forgot it. I'm sure it'll come back to me. I've got so many
Sorry.
thoughts. No, no, no. It's just like it's not you. It's I have so many thoughts and feelings on this movie. Oh, that was
Again,
it. The
I want to say
Walgreens.
that I still like this movie.
They are again. I don't. I'm warm on this movie. Like I am. I am giving it a above neutral rating. I've just got like a lot of little problems. Like they see the Walgreens and they're like, it's so bright inside, and I'm like, you've been in buildings with electricity before. Like,
For you, it was just a couple
yeah,
hours ago.
for you, at like 2 hours ago, you were in a lit up city hall with like strobes and everything. But sure, the Walgreens is impressive. Another thing that really bothered
It
me
was a Walgreens. It was
is
pretty big.
Mary Sanderson, actually all of them, but especially Mary Sanderson, uses a lot of modern slang and lingos that like came out after they died. Like she's like, "Oh, that's a good time hack," and I'm like, "How do you know that phrase?"
No, wait. Oh, she yells cowabunga
Yeah,
at
she's
some
like,
point.
"Oh, look, Winifred, I'm surfing, cowabunga," and I'm like, "How do you know these things?"
I think that was a reference to the fact that Kathy and Jimmy was in the most recent Ninja Turtles TV show.
Maybe, but like, there's like 4 or 5 of these comments where they just say like very modern, hip like things from like 5 years ago,
Okay, okay.
and
Theory. One of their witch powers was to see the future.
then they shouldn't be
So,
surprised by literally everything else.
yeah, but they could only see the future of television. They could, in the 1600s, they had spells that let them watch 90s television, and that's where she learned the phrase cowabunga. It makes perfect sense.
Then you should know about Walgreens.
You should know about Walgreens, damn it. Why are you so
Why
surprised?
are you
No,
so
you've destroyed my
surprised?
theory.
Um, yeah, I don't know. It just like it every single time it happened, it pulled me out of like I would like settle in and be like, okay, yeah, this is going, and it would just like immediately destroy, like pull me right back out of it, and I'd be like, God damn it, like
I did appreciate her Roombas. I appreciated that
now,
like her Roombas were an
yes.
actual plot device.
So yeah, that was my next thing. So they all get brooms again at the Walgreens, but there aren't enough for her. So she surfs on 2 Roombas, which in itself would have been a funny gag, but they bring it around to be a plot device later, and I really appreciated that.
Oh
That
no, those Roombas were perfectly utilized in this
we
movie.
a few months ago now, me, John, Ben, and Eric were playing the Ghostbusters tabletop RPG.
Hmm.
And another guy, Jeremy, could only make it occasionally. And so he played what we called a Doomba, and it was just a possessed Roomba. And whenever he just randomly made the game, the Doomba would be with us. And it was like our Slimer. And that's all I could think about during this. I was like, oh my god, they made the Doomba. And I just wanted to drop that Easter egg because I know some of these people listen to this.
Oh
Um,
good.
and
Yeah, I
it made
think
me
the
smile.
okay, well the Hocus Pocus branded Doombas. Perfect.
Here's the thing:
Perfectly realized joke.
if no one has given those bewitched Roombas a internet name, Doomba, putting it out
We're
there.
calling them Doombas. It's out there.
Now we can sue whoever comes up with that and point to this episode, which came out before.
Not true.
That's
Don't think that that's the case. I
how
don't
we're
think
gonna
that
make
that's
our
a
money.
copyright.
They stole our
That's not.
copyright. We did it. We did it, Sam.
Sure. Just like I'm going to sue that other podcast with a similar name and premise, which I'm
We
not going to do. John was, one of our friends was like, you shouldn't have said that. I was like, I'm not going to sue them. It's like, I don't even know them. I'm sure they're nice.
They're probably very nice girls. Yeah, women, whatever. I
Or
don't know. I've never
adult
listened.
women.
Um, okay. So then they get on the brooms, which is where I was like, wow, this is terrible green screen. And then I had a thought about how the kids from the first one aren't in this movie.
They are not.
Did
They've
Gilbert
moved.
kill the kids from the first one? Did
No,
Sam?
they probably just moved. It's been 30 years.
Maybe, but he worshipped the Sanderson sisters and thought they had been wronged. He went and got the book, made a black flame candle to bring them back. I think he. I'm just saying. I'm just saying.
Well,
He
he
knows.
wouldn't have even. I don't think that he would have known.
He watched them die in the cemetery in the first one. He was there.
Oh, but did he? Oh, and yeah, he definitely saw all those other
He saw
kids.
those kids murder the witches.
No, but he knows a lot about the story of that night. He knows that they weren't doing good.
No,
Oh
he
yeah, no, maybe
doesn't.
he
As
might. No,
far
there's a
as
good chance that Sam Richardson killed them. No, I'm on board with this. I'm on
because
board with this.
he only
Sam
saw the
Richardson definitely
positive of
murdered all three of
them,
them.
and not a single child died that night. So it's he thinks that history has wronged them and smeared their names. And his proof is nothing bad happened to any children that night. I think he killed them.
He
That's
killed them.
now in the next movie when they get one of them to come back. I will be
Sam
proven
Richardson's
wrong.
going to jail.
But until
No,
then,
if they get any of them back, yeah.
Sam Richardson has buried them in the creepy basement underneath the magic shop.
Seems likely. It would be shocking if that wasn't the case now that I think about it.
All right, so then we get to the next part of the movie, which is contains my least favorite part of the movie. So we end up at the big Halloween fair in the middle of Salem,
Mm.
and Tony Hale shines here, and I had really, really hoped. Remember the really problematic bus driver?
Oh yeah.
I had really hoped they were going to run into him.
They didn't bring anybody back
They didn't
from the
bring
original movie, other than
anybody
the
back.
Sanderson sisters and Billy Butcher said that was it.
But at one point, someone goes, "Hey, hey, Sanderson sisters!" And it was like from off screen at first, and I was like, "Please be the bus driver, please be the bus driver." And it was just a random dude who sends them onto the stage for a. It
Lord.
is a drag queen Sanderson, and I'm like, they clearly do not look like drag queens.
Now, my wife watches a ton of RuPaul's, like every show that RuPaul is putting out right now. I was just like, I think these drag queens would have put in much more effort.
Yeah, for real.
These were such low effort costumes. I was like, real drag queens would be quite offended by this.
Yes, I back in the day also watched a lot of RuPaul due to laziness, and well, I would put on um, oh god, I don't even remember the name of what used to be like the gay cable network. Um,
Logo? Might have
Logo,
been Logo.
yes, Logo used to play Buffy at like 10 at night, and I would always put it on in the background while I was gaming, and it would inadvertently always turn into RuPaul, and I would always just leave it as background noise. So I've actually seen a lot of RuPaul, and I have to agree that this was just like it was lazy.
They could have put it. Yeah, I was probably that was one of the things in this movie I was the most disappointed in. I was like, you could have had such fabulous costumes for this scene, and you chose not to.
Yeah,
Shame on you, Disney Plus. Shame on you.
I will say actually, the group that ends up winning, because the Sanderson sisters do not win, um, at least one of them was such a good costume that I didn't realize for a good 30 seconds that it was a drag queen costume. A full drag queen review.
Drag outfit. Oh yeah, yeah.
So, though the winning team, they at least put some effort into because it took me a minute to realize it was a drag queen competition. Um, but yeah, so then we get to my least favorite part of the movie is in the first movie they go to town hall and they bewitch all of the parents by doing a music number singing "I'll put a spell on you," and it worked.
Hmm.
It really worked. It gave them a chance to sing and show off and do their whole Broadway theater thing, but the song fit, the tone fit. In this one, they just sing one way or another. And
Hmm.
my notes are just like, this one is so much awkward than the last one. What the fuck is happening? Why are they singing one way or another? There was an awful episode of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, the original with Melissa Joan Hart, that did this scene. And I
Hmm.
hated it then when I was like a tween, and I hate it now. It made no sense. It doesn't tie into the plot. It is just like a lazy, horrible music number. I hated it. And that's how they
No,
bewitched the
it
town
was
people.
yeah, it was another one of those recharge scenes. It was trying to have that dance scene. It wasn't as good. Um, I think one way or another is it's overused. in these sorts of things. Because I feel like that song comes up a lot
Again,
in these kind
Sabrina
of
the
situations
Teenage
in movies.
Witch did this.
Yeah, they could have. I think they could have. I think they could have picked a different song. Um, if the one thing I did like in this scene, if you look into the crowd, you do see a lot of homages to the first movie. Like a lot of the costumes you see will be costumes taken directly from the original movie. I did
I
appreciate that.
There is also a great Easter egg where they peek through a window right after this, and these two guys are watching the original Hocus Pocus.
Yeah, I noticed that. I was like, it's world breaking because they're
Yeah,
watching the scene with uh Penny Marshall and Gary Marshall, which was a nice
a nice
which is a
nod
nice
to
homage
them.
to them since they
Yeah.
both passed away and recently. But it was like I was like, wait, how does this work? How
How
does
does
this
this
work?
exist? Yeah. It was like, just don't think about it. Don't think about it.
The one explanation I saw was the exploits of the Sanderson sisters that night were well known enough that there was a movie made about it.
I like
So
that.
maybe the that couple played themselves in the movie of Hocus Pocus 1. That's easy enough. And then those two that nice couple was watching it because it was Halloween. You always watch Hocus Pocus on Halloween. It's the most sensible way of making that scene make sense.
So at this point, I'd say we're halfway through the movie,
Sure.
and I have almost no notes left. Um, And I actually thought the second half of this movie was stronger because the kids in this movie are actually pretty smart. But
Yeah,
also,
because oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, go ahead.
I was gonna say, yeah, it's pretty soon after this. The witches are after Tony Hale because they need him for their Deus Ex They need his blood for their Deus Ex Machina spell. That's gonna give them all the power. Which leads to our Becca and Izzy reuniting and making up, communicating with Cassie and making up, and then we're kind of just into the last act of the movie now that our trio has been put back together.
I will say we missed a minor plot thread because they barely hold on to it, so it's missable. But one of the things I did like is one of the reasons this is all happening is
Mhm.
because immediately the Sanderson sisters, when they come back, they're like, all right, there's the teenagers. Our problem last time was that we didn't immediately kill the teenagers and they foiled our plans to get children, so let's just kill these teenagers right now. And basically, the teenagers immediately get away and they're like, all right, screw that plan. Let's go steal some children. And then that gets hard and they're like, screw that. Let's just cast this ultimate spell.
Yeah,
Um, it's just like, they're like, you know what? The last plan, it's work. I don't want to do work. And so they need to hunt down Cassie's dad. So they have to reunite with Cassie. That is basically the second act. The himbo pops in for a second. I think he's going to join up with them. They just leave him. Um,
yeah, they kind of just ditch him. I was like, he could have been helpful
he could have
at
been
the end
helpful.
of the
He's a
movie, but
funny character.
you kind of needed to just be the women at the end of the movie. I guess
It
that's why you
did.
do.
So, beginning of the third act, we find out, oh, Becca is a witch. It is her 16th birthday, and she has developed her powers, which was a weird twist I didn't see coming.
Oh,
This is
I
where I
thought
feel like
that
it
made
fully stopped feeling like Hocus Pocus, and it started feeling like an AU Hocus Pocus. Like this is almost where like some Halloween Town bullshit.
yeah, it was pretty Halloween towny.
It's like they were like, let us mend the bridges between Halloween Town and Hocus Pocus when we can all agree that these plot threads can work together. Like,
Yeah,
it's like a royal marriage where they were like, all right, Hocus Pocus 2 and Halloween Town, we're going to put you together, and together you're going to get all the fans. And so they bring back Billy again, Billy Butcherson, and there is the funny, but like, again, kind of like world breaking revelation slash joke that Billy was never with Winifred Sanderson. He kissed her once when they were like
they were
14.
teenagers. Yeah, they
Yeah,
bring it up at the beginning of the movie.
yeah, they kiss once, and then like he starts dating Sarah Sanderson, and Winifred gets jealous and just kills him. So they were never together, but they need his head because Winifred still considers him her ex-lover, and she needs the head of an ex-lover. And it's just him basically being alive and frustrated because no one ever broke the spell on him at the end of the first movie. So he's just been lying awake in his grave for
Just been
29
lying in the grave.
years.
Poor guy.
And now they're just trying to steal his head. And he's just like, I just want to die. Billy was a really fun part of this movie. But yeah, the girls have magic. We get to the final confrontation eras. Book is apparently sentient and like not a bad guy now. And I'm like, again, making Book not evil and not loyal to the Sanderson sisters is a weird stretch. Um,
Yeah, it's so that when the new coven has the book in the next movie, the book doesn't automatically have to be the corrupting force. The witch mother, that's our corruptor, not the book necessarily.
Even though we were told the book is the evil force in the first one by the 300-year-old cat who had been studying this for 300 years.
And also, it is what contains the spell to create the potion that allows you to suck the life force out of children.
Yeah, there's not a
Let's
lot.
not forget, they literally have been eating children. That is why they're bad guys. They
Yeah,
eat
and
children.
that's not the only thing that they do that's evil. That is just the thing we know about that they regularly do.
And even if that was the only, even if everything else they did was like proto-feminist sort of allegory, like, oh, they're not really evil, they're just were, like they set up at the beginning of this movie. It's like she wasn't really evil, she just was independent and different, and that's what was led us to believe that she was evil. But it's like no, but then at some point they make the leap to eating children's souls. Pure
Yeah,
evil. That's pure evil. I was like, that's unredeemably evil. That's like there's not a John Wayne Gacy redemption arc that
yeah.
anyone's going to accept. Like that's who they are. They eat kids, but we have to tone them way back. We have to make sure that now we know that like, oh, they're not really the bad thing because we need to be sympathetic for them because we're definitely setting them up to be the heroes by the end of the next movie.
And now we're establishing the fact that there are good witches and bad witches. And so Becca, Izzy, and Cassie become a good witch coven
Sure.
and basically lure Book into their coven. The Sanderson sisters complete their spell, but they didn't read the fine print. A
Right.
la
Like that's weak. That's weak. Again, weak writing.
again, that's a plot thread in Hilda, but it makes sense in Hilda because she's an 8-year-old girl. It doesn't make sense for the Sanderson sisters to. The book even shows them the warning, and they're like, ah. And the fine print says you have to give up what you care about most, and what Winifred cares about most is her family. And so Mary and Sarah are poofed away into oblivion, and Winifred begs Book to bring them back, to let her be with them again, and Book poofs her away, basically, with them.
Yeah.
And the world is saved, and now Becca, Cassie, and Izzy are witches with this magical book. Cut to really weird closing credits where they are literally making a music video in a studio.
Do you think that's just the credits, or are we supposed to think that they've moved on to some other plane
I
of
feel like
reality where they just make music together?
that in my mind was just the credits so they could do a Disney sing-along thing. But I
Sure.
mean, it would be fun if that was just their like pocket of hell. And then we get through these really weird, unnecessary music video credits, and we get to the post-credits scene where there's a cat in this movie that is totally not the cat from the first movie, but you constantly have to question if this is the cat from the first movie.
Right. They make you think. You keep wondering. It's like, oh, is the cat going to talk, and it's going to turn out to be Thackeray?
Yeah, like
Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen?
is this Thackeray? Like, and they never answer that question. I don't know if they're like saving that for the next one or what, but
It was weird to me that by the end of the movie, it was not Thackeray.
yes.
I was like,
And
why do we spend so much time like focusing on this cat if it was going to just turn out to just be a cat?
again,
Like that was frustrating to me.
that's part of where I'm like, this felt more like a mini series or a TV show where you're like building to a cat revelation that never comes because the movie ends.
Right,
And
especially we give the cat the whole closing, the whole post credit. I was like, how are we doing this if he's not Thackeray?
yeah, the cat is the post credit, and it's the cat revealing that there is yet another black flame candle.
Right.
And just, oh my god.
It wouldn't make sense for him to be back because he does. Thackeray, the spell is broken. Thackeray goes to heaven with his sister. Like he's gotten his reward for like spending 300 years as a cat.
I
It would
mean,
be kind of terrible that if he like immediately got turned back into a cat. Like I'd be pretty frustrated. It was like, oh, I was off in heaven with my family, and here I am being a cat again. I don't want this.
I mean, that happened to Billy at the beginning of the first movie. He gets sucked back into his body. And the Sanderson
Hmm.
sisters keep getting sucked back from oblivion. It's canon that this is a
Yeah,
thing
it
that
does happen a lot.
happens. It happens a bit.
Everybody keeps getting pulled back from the dead. And again, we're definitely going to see the Sanderson sisters resurrected for a third time for the next movie,
Absolutely.
which
There's
is
no way
just
that's not happening.
no. I wouldn't be shocked if they recast them as a younger version of the Sanderson sisters. That might help prolong the series. But yeah, they're definitely saying, "Hey, we're doing another one of these, so hang tight. See you in 2 years."
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna watch the third one.
Oh yeah, I'm gonna watch the next one when it comes out. Not quite. Again, I would put myself at a 7 out of 10 on this movie.
I
6
mean,
doesn't seem high enough. I'm not at a 5 because 5 would be, I would say, neutral, and I like this movie more than being neutral on it.
I'd say I'm
Um,
6.5 to 7. Like, that's the thing. It's like, I don't regret having seen this. I just think it was lazily written, and I don't know if I have to watch it again anytime soon. Does that
right.
make
It's like,
sense?
yeah, it's like how I feel about like Thor 4. Like I went to theaters, I watched Thor 4. I thought it was great. I'm not gonna watch Thor 4 again. Probably not gonna happen. I'm not gonna go sit down and watch Hocus Pocus 2 another time. Well, I will because my wife didn't get to watch it, so I'll watch it with her. Um, and then that'll be it
Yeah, I.
until the third one comes out, when I'll watch the first two again. I'll watch. I will inevitably end up watching this movie again. It wouldn't. It's not gonna fit into my like regular Halloween rotation of movies like the first movie does.
Yeah, again, I'm not gonna shoo people away from it. I think it's worth watching. I think it's worth watching, and you should definitely take it with a grain of salt. Like, I don't know, get high and watch it. Like, maybe that'll make it better.
It
Um,
definitely was, but certainly.
I don't know,
I
man.
mean, the
Full
question. I was
disclosure, I
certainly
got
high.
I got high for the second half, and I just I did enjoy the second half more, I guess. Like
Explains why you stopped taking notes.
I mean, partially. It's I feel like, a little bit of this, a little bit of that.
But yeah, definitely better than Halloween Town. Not as good as Hocus Pocus 1, better than Halloween Town. And I thought Halloween Town was fine. I'm a 5 on Halloween Town. I'm not going to knock it. I'm probably at an 8.5 to a 9 for Hocus Pocus 1. I'd say I'm a 9 for Hocus Pocus 1. I think it's a total classic. Hocus Pocus 2, 7, 7.5. 7.5 on a good day.
Yeah.
Totally watchable. Probably one of the better Disney Plus original movies. Definitely makes it to the top quarter. Or no, it probably makes it to the very top of the Disney Plus original movies. I don't know how many there even are.
There's a Disney Channel original movie every year, so there's a lot of them.
Well, I'm saying the Disney Plus.
Oh, Disney Plus? Yeah, I'm
Oh, if
not.
we're talking Disney Channel, like if we're going back to like Disney Channel original movies, it's like way at the top because there's a lot more. There's a lot of terrible stuff that they put out. But for like stuff that was debuted on Disney Plus, that was intended to debut on Disney Plus, I'm not going to count like the Pixar stuff that just got done, that ended up getting stuck there during the pandemic. Like it's not as good as like say Red. Like Red is stronger, but not. not really a Disney Plus original, even though it ended up being. This is better than Under Wraps 2. And Under Wraps 2 was fine, if you're familiar with the Under
I haven't
Wraps.
watched any of them yet, but they're
We'll
on the
eventually have
list.
to talk about
Yeah,
them. My daughter really loves.
I'm
I use
sure
my
we
daughter's name.
will discuss the Under Wraps movies.
Yeah, I haven't watched the original, but I've now watched the two newer Under Wraps movies.
Yeah, I'm really, really bummed that the first one isn't on Disney. Weird stuff isn't on Disney.
Is that
Like,
true? No, I swear I saw it there.
I just checked
Oh,
literally 10 seconds ago.
I guess I was mistaken.
Um, yeah, no, they have the new one, they have the sequel to the new one. That's it. I don't know. Again, there's like weird things that are tied up in litigation, like the Aladdin animated series is the only like Disney animated series that isn't on Disney Plus.
Oh, what's with that one?
I think again, I think it's just like a weird litigation thing because I think like
Hmm.
I looked it up. It like CBS or something owns like the rights to it. So, it's like one of those things where it was like it aired on CBS and there's still like a rights issue, so they just they don't care enough about putting it up to fight that legal battle.
Hmm.
No one's screaming for Aladdin the animated series.
That's true. That show was fine,
Yeah,
but
like
not worth fighting about.
I learned that because my kid got really into Aladdin last week, and I was like, "Oh, this is great. There's like a lot of Aladdin," and I was like, "No, there is not." But we can discuss that in another episode.
Yeah, it's for a later time. This one's gone long.
We
So
this might be our
everybody,
longest episode.
yeah, if you have thoughts on Hocus Pocus 2 or Hocus Pocus 1 or any spooky movies you think we should talk about, please let us know. You can find us at RTSpiritsPod on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. We'd love to hear from you.
Thanks for joining us. As always, I'm Steve,
I'm Sam.
and we will see you next time.
Good night.
Night.